Welcome back. Today, I want to share with you my Genesis story. Um, there is a great quote that says, "We each have two lives, and the second life begins when you realize you only have one." So, my Genesis story is about the day that I realized I only had uh, one life to live. It's a story that I find great difficulty in telling people, and I feel like each time I try, I somehow fall short of being able to articulate the sensations and the feelings of what happened to me. But nonetheless, I will try. Um, Instead of me trying listening to me ramble on, I want to read a passage to you from something that I wrote a while back. And I quote, "What happened to you in September 2015? A strange thing happened. Amy and I were seconded to work in a remote Aboriginal town called Kununurra in outback Australia that was home to roughly 5,000 people, predominantly Aboriginal people. My time in the Kimberley was a real eye-opener, having lived a fairly sheltered life up to that point. About 2.5 months into our secondment, I was enjoying my usual after-work jog towards the sunset when it struck. A flood of emotions overcame me, and before I could help it, my knees buckled as I fell to the pavement. I began to weep uncontrollably, bawling my eyes out as I stared into the orange-lit horizon. My body was flooded with overwhelming sensations of sadness, joy, and relief all at once, followed by a tremendous release of tension from my body, and then peace. When I pulled myself back together again and got back to the cabin, all I managed to tell Amy was that something's going to be different now. So, whew, it's a lot to take in, right? Um, on a rather uneventful day in September 2015, my whole life just got thrown upside down, right? It's almost unbelievable. It feels like a religious experience. It feels like a psychedelic experience, but I assure you, I was completely sober when it happened. And I, up to that point, I haven't read a single book about Buddhism, philosophy, spirituality, you name it, right? So when it happened, it was extremely liberating at the same time that it was equal parts confusing and scary. So the best way I can describe what happened to me is kind of like if you have a computer that you've been using for 25 years and you haven't bothered to sort of upkeep it. And then one day, the technician comes along and decides to reset the computer or to wipe it clean and start over. That's kind of what it felt like, scary and liberating because everything that I held dear up to that point, all the things that I thought were the most meaningful and valuable and important, and all the goals that I was working towards, kind of just all went, like it didn't matter anymore. I didn't know who I was anymore, really. From having this, sheet of paper with your life for the next 10 years set out for me, having nice car, big home, couple of kids perhaps, maybe a dog, and climbing the social, corporate ladder career thing, to just having a blank sheet of paper and say, try again. It's kind of like a big joke, really, that the universe threw on me, but such is what happened. So the 25-year-old me was quite, thrown off by all of this. It felt very scary. I didn't know where to turn, but over the past 6 years, I've worked at it, and I've arrived at some answers for myself about what happened, what caused it to happen, and what was the universe trying to tell me. But anyway, I feel like a lot of us, at least in my circle, I have a lot of friends who have been on a similar journey as that. Perhaps not as dramatic, but certainly deep inside, there is like an inkling that something about the way you're living currently is just not quite right. something doesn't feel truthful, something doesn't feel authentic to who you are as a person. And they are starting to peel back those layers of the onion to try and get to the truth, right? So that's my Genesis story. And of course, there's a lot I can say about it, but perhaps if we do a little bit of post-mortem on what caused that to happen, what I can say is that while I may never know for sure, these are my theories, which is that leading up to that event, I've been living a rather unconscious life, right? It's ironic because my mom growing up never forced me into anything. She never said that you have to pursue finance or get into investment banking or get into the school or that. Nowhere near as much as, let's say, some of the traditional Chinese parents would anyway. So all along, I felt like I had the illusion of choice, of like making my own life plans and going along with it. And it wasn't until that day and much later that I realized that actually I was just stepping into the choices that were pre-chosen for me already, you know, kind of sleepwalking through life and living my life in complete alignment with what society expected me to be as a person. And that level of inauthenticity slowly built up over time to the point where basically combined with the novel experiences that I was having in the Kimberley, it came to a halt, right? And the level of inauthenticity was no longer able to be contained. And, you know, perhaps it was the extraordinary beauty of the particular day that was the trigger for the, you know, for the bottle of Pepsi with Mentos in it to explode. So, and when it did, it was kind of uncontrollable. You know, I obviously no man wants to be seen, you know, breaking down, crying on the side of the street, but I really couldn't control myself. So that's my theory about what happened anyway, which is I was not living a life that was true to myself leading up to the point I was 21. And since then I've been working, and some might say I've been experimenting with all sorts of crazy stuff to get to some answers for myself. So that wraps up my Genesis story. There's a lot more that I can say about it. I feel like that's a fitting end to an otherwise indescribable experience. Have you experienced something similar? Are you also on this journey? Do you have this inkling in the back of your head that something is missing or something is lacking? I don't know. I'm just rambling here, but thanks for tuning in, and I'll see you at the next one.